Hello and welcome to the preview of this week's UEFA Champions League matches. Interesting games coming up in this quarter-final round of games as the likes of Real Madrid, Barcelona, Paris Saint-Germain as well as Inter Milan are all in action. On Tuesday night is the game between Arsenal and Real Madrid happening in London. So Arsenal, they're going to this game having never won the UEFA Champions League. Real Madrid are 15-time winners and they come into this particular encounter as the favorite to go ahead to the semi-finals. However, the two teams have not had incredible form of late as both have been struggling to get some wins on board. Arsenal, in their last 5 games, they've won only 2 and drawn 3. Real Madrid, on the other hand, have won 3, drawn 1 and lost 1, losing their recent game against Valencia at home by 2-1. So two sides that are looking for form and trying to find their feet once again go head on this particular encounter, and Arsenal will be looking to get a victory as they play home in the first leg. Real Madrid, on the other hand, a draw will do them good as they will fancy their chances at the Bernabeu. It's an interesting encounter, and ahead of the game, fans of both sides have been very enthused about the game that is coming up. Arsenal fans feel that they have a chance due to Real Madrid's poor form of late. Also, Real Madrid fans do feel that with the injury to the likes of Gabriel and Arsenal having no striker as Kai Havertz is injured until the end of the season, it's a great opportunity for Real Madrid to go on and win this encounter and progress at the end of the second leg as well. So Arsenal coming up against Real Madrid. Who do I tip? I do think that the first leg is going to be a very, very cagey one, but I do predict that both teams will get goals and it will end 2-2 between the two sides at the Emirates. So Arsenal to draw 2-2 with Real Madrid. From London, we turn our attentions to Munich, where Bayern Munich take on Inter Milan. Bayern Munich are 6-time winners of the UEFA Champions League, as well as Inter Milan, who are 3-time winners of the competition. Inter Milan last win coming in 2010, whilst the last win for Bayern Munich happened in 2020. So 10 years apart, the two sides were crowned champions in the UEFA Champions League. However, going into this particular encounter, the form has not been so great on either side. Inter Milan, they have drawn their last 2 games against Parma and against AC Milan, which were both away from home. Also, you look at that of Bayern Munich, and they've won their last 2 games, a 3-1 victory and a 3-2 victory. So if you take a closer look at this particular game, it's a game that will have goals coming from both sides. However, I think it's going to be a very, very difficult game for Bayern Munich. Despite Inter Milan's form and everything, I do think that they will travel to Bayern and get a 1-1 draw at the Allianz Arena. Well, from Germany, let's turn attention to Spain, where Barcelona will be in action against Dortmund on Wednesday night. So for that particular game, Barcelona, they are 5-time winners of the UEFA Champions League, whilst Dortmund, they've won the competition just on 1 occasion. It's an interesting pairing because these are two sides that generally they do love to attack when it comes to their system of play. However, lately Dortmund has been a side that is able to also kind of sit back to a degree, soak up the pressure and hit on the counter in order to get the needed goals when it matters. So looking at this particular game, I do see that Barcelona certainly are favorite as they play at home. Barcelona, they've had impeccable form coming into this particular game. However, their last game against Real Betis ended in a 1-1 draw. You would look at it as a poor result in some form, but Barcelona had their eye on this particular encounter, so you would kind of make an excuse for them going into this one. Also, when you look at Real Betis has been one of the informed sides in this calendar year, so a 1-1 draw is not really a bad result. So Barcelona will still be pumped up for the game against Dortmund happening in Barcelona. So you take a look at the two sides and the form. Barcelona have won 4 of their last 5, drawing just the last one against Betis, as I said earlier. And also when you look at that of Dortmund, they've also managed to win 3 and lose 2 of their last 5 games. However, there are 2 recent wins where there are 2 last games, a 4-1 victory and a 3-1 victory. So going into this particular game, it is a game that would have goals, but I feel it will be more one-sided in terms of the goals that we will see in this particular one. Barcelona to get a 3-1 victory against Borussia Dortmund. From Spain, let's turn our attentions to France, where Paris Saint-Germain come up against Aston Villa. Paris Saint-Germain, they are looking to win their first UEFA Champions League. Aston Villa have won the competition before and they have one trophy to their name. So you take a closer look at the game and you notice that the two sides have great form coming into this particular encounter, having won all 5 matches in recent time. So you look at Paris Saint-Germain in terms of their form, they've had victories such as a 1-0 victory in their recent ones, and you could look at a 4-2 victory, a 6-1 victory, a 3-1 victory, as well as a 1-0 victory against Liverpool, which was that when you count back to 5 matches ago. When you turn your attention to Aston Villa, this is a side that in their last 5 games, they scored 3 goals in 4 of them. And then the other game where they managed to get a 2-1 victory, which was the recent one, was against Nottingham Forest. So these are two sides that certainly do have a lot of goals in them. However, if you look at their performances in the Champions League, it has not necessarily been reflective in terms of the number of goals both sides do score. I think that it will be a very cagey game. Unai Emery of Aston Villa would like to keep his side compact and then take the game back to Villa, or Birmingham, I should say, where they can get the necessary victory to progress to the next stage of the competition. When you look at the other side, Luis Enrique, he is one man that will go on the attack, but normally attacks with a very structured form. So that means that you do not get a lot of counter breaks on this Paris Saint-Germain side. Paris Saint-Germain will be counting on the experience of Marquinhos, who has a club-high 103 appearances for the side from France. Going into this game, as I said, because of the nature of their Champions League results for the two sides, I think it's going to be a very narrow victory for Paris Saint-Germain. Paris Saint-Germain to beat Aston Villa by 1-0. Well, that'll be all for the preview of the UEFA Champions League matches happening this week. We have games happening in England, in Spain, in Germany, and in France. So all the top nations when it comes to the leagues in Europe are featuring this time round in the UEFA Champions League. However, you have to bear in mind that these are just first leg matches, and so keeping a good result, you always have a chance in the second leg, especially for sides that will be playing at home in the second leg. So that'll be all for the preview. Catch you with a review of the matches as and when the results do come in. Stay tuned.